Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the third Google Apps for Education Extra Credit webinar. My name is Jason Cook. I'm a member of the Google Apps team based here in Seattle, and I'm joined on the line today by two of my Google colleagues, Stephen Bucci and Ariel Hathaway, who are based in Mountain View. Our featured speaker today from Truman State University is Greg Marshall, web developer, and from Sungard Higher Education, we're pleased to have Josh Horner, product manager of the Luminis Platform, and Rob McKay, lead architect for the Luminis Platform, joining us as well. We know a huge number of schools rely on Sungard products, so we're very excited to be able to talk about how Google Apps integrates with Sungard and how products like Luminis 5 will make those integrations easier and more seamless. A couple quick notes regarding logistics. We'll do Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to send them to me via the chat window, and I will queue those up for the Q&A portion. And I've also just sent out telephone dial information to everyone, so in case you have any issues with the WebEx audio stream, please use the telephone. So without any further ado, let me pass the mic to Greg.
All right, thanks, Jason. We're very pleased to be a part of this presentation, and I'm going to be talking today about how Truman has integrated our existing Luminis install with Google Apps. Got a nice little picture here. Google sent us that banner there, and the only condition on receiving that banner was to send back a picture of our students enjoying Google Apps. So here's a nice little shot from our campus, and everyone's excited about Google Apps here at Truman. Truman is Missouri's public liberal arts and sciences university, so we are a state university, get state funding. We have about 6,000 students, mostly undergrads. We have about 250 graduate students. And we are located in Kirksville, Missouri, which is a very small town in the northeast part of the state. It's about 3 hours to any big cities. So the students that come here are kind of stuck here for a while and make the most of it. Sungard products at Truman. The main ones are Banner and Luminis. Banner is our ERP, and we're running version 8. And Luminis is our portal, and we're on version 4.2.3. Most of what I'll be talking today is Luminis. That's what I deal with. I'm the Luminis administrator. Our Luminis install is branded as TrueView. We call it TrueView. The URL is trueview.truman.edu. The students get a portal account when they're prospective students. If they choose to, we have a prospective student portal that gives them some extra information. And then every student gets an account no matter what when they are accepted. And they keep their same username all the way through alumni status. So once you get your username, you're set all the way through and it never changes. And that's something we did intentionally. We wanted to keep that consistency all the way through. We've been running Luminis since 2004. And before that, we ran the Campus Pipeline portal, which was the predecessor to Luminis. We ran that for 2 years prior. And I've been the administrator of those systems since 2003, so about 7 years. And we have our portal, Blackboard, and Google Apps all set up to authenticate off Active Directory. Active Directory is the main source for all our accounts, main source for authentication. So if we bring up any new systems, the first thing we try to do is make sure we can tie it into Active Directory so there's one password for everything and one username for everything and one place to go change your password. Our mail setup is probably a little different than some sites. We had the students on the Luminis email and calendar before they moved to Google Apps, but they've been on Google Apps since May of last year. But the faculty and staff are on Exchange, and they have Google Apps accounts for the other services other than mail. But all their mail is delivered to Exchange, and their calendaring is also done through Exchange. But all our addresses are username at truman.edu. We don't have any subdomains, so not .faculty.truman.edu or .students or anything like that. Everything's at truman.edu. And we did that so that we could have some flexibility on changing things as we move through the years. So your address doesn't change just because we decide to move you to a different service. And our mail is all routed to the appropriate server by aliases on our incoming mail server, on our MX server. We have a list of everybody in there, and it knows which server to send everyone's mail to. And because of that, our Google Apps is set up to send all mail back to Truman for proper routing. So if a student sends an email to a faculty member it goes back to Truman and then gets routed to Exchange. If they send to another student, even though it's going right across Google Apps, it still comes back to Truman and then gets routed back to Google Apps to that student. That does give us some nice things we can do with forwarding mail and setting up aliases and getting people on the right servers. Why did Truman go Google? We had lots of complaints from students. They weren't happy with the limitations of the iPlanet email system that was included with Luminis. We only had a 35 megabyte quota for the students, and that's because we didn't have much disk space on that server. And we've got it set up so that we never get rid of Luminis accounts. So as we added more and more students every year, that mail server was getting fuller and fuller, and students would have to clean out their mailbox several times a semester. 35 megabytes doesn't go very far anymore. There was limited features in the mail client in Luminis. We were on Luminis 3 at the time, and it didn't have rich text editing or anything like that. The trash and spam folders didn't work unless you went in and enabled them. Otherwise, if you deleted a message, it was gone. There was no way to get it back, and we had students doing that all the time. Or they'd send a message, and it wouldn't go to their sent folder, and they couldn't go see what they sent. So those were obviously some pain points there. There wasn't any spam filtering on the email client. We had a server-based solution, but there was no way for the students to easily refine that, mark other messages as spam or whatever. They could blacklist an address, but that doesn't do much good because the addresses were constantly changing. And the interface, the students said, was clunky. You could move things into folders, but you had to do it through a bunch of different drop-down menus and stuff, and it didn't work extremely well. And the students were using other clients for their personal email accounts. They were coming in already with Hotmail accounts and Gmail accounts and Yahoo accounts, and the functionality was just a lot worse than what they were used to. We did let students forward their mail to their other accounts, so that a lot of them were just forwarding it anyways. And the reason we always let our students forward mail is we figure it's better that they check it on the account where they're already checking things rather than not check it at all. So, I have a couple quotes here from a student satisfaction survey. This is from 2008, back when we were on the Luminis email. One of them here is, the only good thing about the email is that it lets me forward everything to my Gmail account. And then another one is, I don't know why everyone doesn't just forward their Truman email to Gmail. And that says, not really your fault, you can't compete with Google on this one. And I went through all the survey comments from that survey that had to do with email, and looked at everyone, and a lot of them were like this. They said, you know, you can't compete with Google. Nothing compares to Gmail, nothing compares to whatever. So we looked at that and realized that we couldn't do anything that was as good ourselves, and we'd spend a lot more time trying to keep up with them. So we decided to outsource our email in early spring of 2009, and we looked at Google Apps and two other services. I won't mention who those are, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. We gave the students a summary of the features of each service and a little survey asking them if they would or would not use each service. And 90% of the students who responded said that they would use Google Apps, and 10%, of course, said they would not. And then the comments also went along with that, saying Google is what we would choose, Google is the best one to choose, etc. And then the other two services only scored 44% and 35%. So looking at data like that and the responses to the surveys, it was pretty obvious that Google was definitely what the students wanted. And when we did our own evaluation, it was what we decided we wanted as well. We also took a look at which services students were already forwarding their accounts to. That was all stored in the Luminis LDAP, so we just ran a query and took a look at that. And I don't have the numbers on it anymore, but the number of students forwarding to Gmail was way higher than forwarding to any other domains. Google also offered some key features that no one else did, such as IMAP access. None of the other services we looked at had that, and students really wanted that for their phones or checking on their own personal systems. Gmail also has the offline access, which is a nice feature. I don't know if anybody's really using it, but it's a nice feature to have available. There's also a consistent user experience across all the platforms and browsers. One of the solutions we looked at didn't have as good of a interface on a Mac or on Linux as it did on Windows, and that just wasn't acceptable to us. We've got a mix of users using all different platforms, and we wanted to support them all the same. And like I said earlier, many of our students were already forwarding their messages to Gmail. So we decided to go with Gmail, and we switched to Google Apps in May of 2009. And once we made the decision, we had to get everything set up and created and migrated. Our account provisioning we do through the Google Apps Directory Sync, which is available from Google. It's a free download. The URL for it's down at the bottom of the slide here, or you can just Google for Google Apps Directory Sync. The sync runs against Active Directory in our case, and it creates or deletes any necessary users and groups. It also syncs the user's name and group membership across. So if we change any group membership or anything on Active Directory, it gets pushed over the next time we run the sync. And we have our Active Directory set up to sync with Banner. We've got some custom scripts in place there that look at a text file and update any information. So if your name gets changed in Banner, you get married or whatever, the next time the script runs to update Active Directory, that change gets pushed over, and then immediately we run the sync, and the change gets pushed out to Google Apps. So things are pretty quick here as far as changes being made. You could also run the directory sync against any LDAP server, so you could run it against the Luminis LDAP directly. Like I said, Active Directory is kind of the boss here, so that's why we chose that. You can also set up the scope to look at on both sides and any exceptions on both sides. So we've got it looking at certain groups, our students group, our faculty group, our staff group, but not like any special student worker accounts or any group accounts, anything like that. And we set that all up looking at the groups. And then on the Google Apps side, we have it set that any account that starts with GA underscore is not deleted. So we have some accounts that are only on Google Apps that don't get deleted when the sync runs, and we use those for special services. The Apps Directory Sync will also do deprovisioning, but we don't use that because we don't get rid of any alumni accounts or anything. Everyone keeps their accounts. So we set the Directory Sync to fail if there's any account deletions, and it will send us an email, and then we can just go in and decide what to do with that account manually. Either put it back into Active Directory because it shouldn't have disappeared, or delete it from Google Apps manually, so next time the sync will run correctly. So, also with account provisioning, like I said, everyone gets Google Apps accounts, all students that have been here since 2004 when we implemented Luminis. Ever since we brought up Luminis, we haven't removed any accounts, so all those people have kept their access. All faculty and staff get Google Apps accounts. Their email goes to Exchange, but they can use Docs and the collaboration tools. And any pre-2004 alumni who we have another email address for have been invited to Google Apps and to Luminis, so they can access an alumni directory and have a Truman email address. Also, when we moved from Luminis to Google, we wanted to migrate as much of the data as we could so that we could just be running Luminis up until a certain point and then immediately switch over and be running Google and not have to have both systems up and tell the users how to migrate. We chose to migrate the Monday after classes were over, after finals were over, so we wanted to make sure that the students wouldn't have to do anything to have their stuff moved over. We knew that the end of the semester was busy time, they weren't going to want to go do things manually, and some of them might take off immediately after things were over, so we wanted to make sure that we were handling everything. So we migrated any accounts that had email forwarding already set up. We moved that over. We migrated their address books from Luminis into Google, and we used the Google Data APIs for that. We wrote some scripts in Python. We actually didn't know Python before that, but Python had the best Google Data API at the time. and we were able to write scripts to look at the LDAP on Luminis, pull out any information, and push it over in the correct format. We migrated all of the mail using IMAP Sync, which is an open source program for syncing mail on two IMAP servers, and it runs as many passes as you want, and each time it just picks up the changes. So each time through, it runs faster and faster. So we started a couple weeks before and kept running it, and it was getting kind of close to the end there that we were worried we weren't going to get everything synced in time, but we pulled it off. And once we switched delivery over from Luminis to Google, we just had to run one more sync, and then all their mail was moved over to Google correctly. The URL for IMAP Sync's right there. We had to do some interesting things with passwords. We could access everyone's Luminis account using the directory manager password. We could use the one password to access any account. But on Google at the time, there was no way to access IMAP using one global password. I think they fixed that since then. But at the time, we had to run a script to set the IMAP password to something and then do the sync. And then we had to store that password for next time we ran the sync again. So it made things interesting. And then when we moved Calendar, we actually moved Calendar later when we upgraded to Luminis 4. We just used the CS export utility on Luminis in the iPlanet calendar, and that creates an ICS file, and we just emailed all those ICS files to the users, and from there they can easily import it into the Google Calendar if they choose. We even included some instructions in the email. We looked at doing that ourselves with the scripts, but going from one format to the other was going to be a lot more work than just having the users do it themselves. Our authentication is set up using SimpleSAML PHP, which is a open source PHP project that is set up to authenticate against Active Directory. You could use the Luminis LDAP for this as well. And then we wrote a GCF connector in Luminis, a generic connector framework, to do a single sign-on from Luminis to the SimpleSAML website. And I posted some of our code from the GCF connector to lumdev.net, so that address there is for my post about that. And then we changed the Luminis code to open the Google Apps URLs for Mail and Calendar, doing the single sign-on. So when users log in and click on the Mail icon now, it opens up Google Apps in a new window. While we were setting all this up, we were trying to figure out what to do with the Google password that's used for IMAP and POP and the Atom feed and things like that. So we added some code to the SimpleSAML PHP that will actually set their Google password to match their domain password. We store a hash of the password in a database, and if that hash ever changes, then we kick off a script to set their password again. So that way they really do have one password all across all services. If they ever change their password, they just log in to Google Apps through the web, and that'll update their Google password, and then they can use that for IMAP and POP and everything. So we've had very few password issues with people not knowing that password, which has been nice. We also have it set up so that users can log in independent of the portal as well. There's a web interface for the SimpleSAML that they can log into. We also did some additional integration. We created an email channel for Luminis that matched the existing email channel in Luminis. We matched the existing one just so the transition would be very minimal for users. It uses CPIP to get the user's credentials when they've logged in, and then it uses those credentials to get the Atom feed and renders that. Now if we did it again, we'd use the three-legged OAuth, so we wouldn't need the user's password, but at the time, that was our only option. We don't have any calendar integration in the portal, but I don't think that's been a big issue for anyone. If we wanted to, I think we could write a very similar channel that would do the same thing. Some pros and cons of our setup. Luminis major upgrades are easier. Going from version 3 to version 4 was a lot less work because we didn't have to deal with mail or calendar. Those are running separately, just had to update the portal itself. Luminis patches, if we do 422 to 423, that's a little more work because we have to go in and do all our customizations of the mail and calendar URLs. But really, it doesn't take that long. I've got a list of which files to change, and I know to do that right away. One of the cons is if our internet connection ever goes down, which happens occasionally, we lose our connection to email, so nothing can happen that way. Of course, all the students have mobile phones and stuff now, so I don't think they ever really lose their connection to email. And then we have had a few issues with automatically logging out of Google Apps, just due to the way SAML's set up. Since you authenticate against the SAML server, but then get passed over to Google, you can't log out at that same SAML server. You have to log out with Google, but we've got some workarounds for that, so it hasn't been a big issue. Would we do this again? I think we would absolutely make the same decisions again. The students are much happier with the features of the email and calendar. The students and faculty are using Google Docs and sites for collaboration, and we're seeing more and more of that every day. They can share things and just work together in ways that weren't possible before. We're looking into integrating Google Docs into Blackboard with the Google that was talked about yesterday. And Google just keeps innovating and improving and releasing more and more tools that are all part of this, and the students are loving it. So it's been a really good decision for us. And with that, I think we're ready to pass over to Josh with Luminis, and he'll tell you about how Luminis 5 is going to make everything we did so much easier. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Greg. So if you just pass me the presenter.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Everybody should be able to see the desktop now. Great. My name is Joshua Horner. I work as the product manager for the Luminis Platform offering, and here with me is Robert McKay. He's lead architect over Luminis Platform 5 as well. And what we wanted to do is talk through our Google Apps integration in the Luminis Platform 5 environment, and obviously the value that everything that Greg just kind of noted, reiterate some of that value and talk through our implementation of Google Apps as a baseline offering in the product. First, if we look at the existing, previous Luminis Platform solution, which was 4.x and prior versions, the system bundled, tightly the Sun microsystems mail server and calendar server. And as Greg had noted, those applications were being used as the default mail and calendaring offerings within the product. Those components were tightly integrated into the underlying code, and really with each other as well. And the pros of doing that, that decision was made many, many, many years ago and had obviously lived in the product since then. And at the time, the pros certainly included, bundled communication models between those enterprise applications. We supported, account provisioning and course provisioning between the ERP, back-end ERP system, and the portal and the mail and calendar offerings, and event synchronization between all three of those entities as well. And so there was some value that certainly came of that. However, really there were a number of cons to that as well, and I think these kind of align with what Greg had noted they saw at their institution, where doing so certainly, we had some third-party dependencies that posed challenges, obviously support challenges and upgrade challenges, and a fairly significant, development overhead, on the development part to maintain those third-party commercial products inside of our application. And most importantly, it just didn't align with the market direction that we were seeing. Obviously, folks are moving to solutions such as Google Apps in a much more rapid fashion over the last 5 years, and we saw that very clearly. So all of those cons, as we determined could be mitigated, through abstraction and really an agnostic approach to these popular applications that are often plugged into the environment, into the portal environment. And so in Luminis Platform 5, we now no longer ship with the Sun mail and calendar commercial products. Certainly the Oracle acquisition of Sun clarified that decision for us. It was a good move with respect to the direction of those products. And so we no longer ship with the Sun products within Luminis Platform. We now kind of support more abstraction and interoperability with the mail and countering environments for many of the reasons that you just heard from Truman. And most importantly, Sungard wants to spend time on valuable facets of the solution to higher education. That's obviously where we should be spending our time, and indeed do not want to compete on other areas, such as mail and calendaring that other folks do so much better. And so this strategy allows us to now spend time on the higher education focus and value that institutions within higher education need from such a product. And at the same time, we were able to continue to offer some package support for enterprise mail and calendar. And we've done that through kind of the interoperability and abstraction layer, adherence to certain mail calendar standards and protocols. We have built in code and logic to make sure we retain the value of the back-end ERP integration. We have retained all of the account and course provisioning from the back-end ERPs, as well as single sign-on and the general UI user interface integration with the enterprise mail and calendaring products that are plugged in to the portal. And then we also deliver certainly with a set of mail and calendar portlets, packaged mail and calendar portlets that hook into the selected mail environment. We'll show you that in the demo here shortly. So key points, again, going forward in Luminis Platform 5, we really do focus now on kind of general mail and calendar support and interoperability around the standards, as opposed to packaging and tightly integrating with only one solution. We hope that this indeed provides a higher level of choice and flexibility around these offerings, which is what the market has very much noted. And we've tried to take it a step further and offer not only packaged portlets and the back-end integration support and generalized mail and calendar standard support, but also we have tried to take it a step further and packaged configuration and testing for prominent mail systems. Okay. And there's a number of mail systems certainly out there in the market that are prominent within higher education, and we indeed started with Google. And within Luminis Platform 5 today, we have a baseline packaged Google integration for mail and calendar. And why did we start with Google? Well, we certainly have seen significant market demand within higher education around the Google solution for many of the reasons, again, that Greg and Truman noted, as well as the ease of partnership and technology alignment. We had a high level of confidence and comfort around the exposed APIs, around things like OAuth and SAML, and we felt some pretty nice, comfortable alignment there, which made our decision easier. Okay, so the integration includes a number of items. First of all, there's a packaged set of administrative applications. Right now, these are Flex-based administrative applications that walk you through step by step how to integrate Google. And we'll show you those within the product. But it is a very simple, easy to use set of administrative applications that ease the overall integration and configuration. And then we also, as I noted before, have retained the ERP provisioning and event synchronization with Google. And so we have account provisioning. New users come into the institution and are assigned within the back-end ERP application through the registration process. Those events immediately flow through Luminis Platform. Accounts are immediately provisioned onto Google. Course provisioning, every time a user signs up for a course, again, teaching or taking, that course record is a synchronized event, one of many that are obviously supported between the back end and the Luminis Platform, that automatically creates Google calendars and Google groups. Membership information and other event synchronization occurs between the products as well. So there are new accounts. New accounts obviously get provisioned Google accounts as well. And in many cases we have institutions that already have Google and have existing Google accounts. So Luminis supports that through a simple flag setting as well to link Luminis Platform users to existing Google accounts. We're using OAuth now for both mail and calendar. OAuth is used mainly for the data and service access, obviously for both mail and calendar. And then you'll see from within the portlets and from within the portal itself at any time users can launch the full Google Mail client or calendar client. And we use SAML for that SSO to the Google clients. There's also a packaged email and calendar portlet that indeed delivers kind of snapshots of your mail and calendar data, and this is certainly valuable because on certain layouts or portal views, as a student or as a staff member or faculty, alumni, prospective student, whatever it may be, they indeed may want to quickly check their mail and calendar offering right next to other important institution information such as a running weblog or their course data or whatever it may be. And we use the Google APIs to populate our portlets. Okay. We also have UI integration with event synchronization and color coding events, and that's just a simple kind of cosmetic item that was introduced to support just easier usability within the calendar system. And then multiple group support, so you can define multiple configurations and then assign each one of those configurations to a different Luminis dynamic group, both for mail and calendar. Okay, so on the calendar integration, just a brief summary of the value and benefits there. It isn't, we offer a kind of a package calendar portlet. There is full single sign-on, obviously out to the Google environment. There is full account provisioning, course and membership provisioning, course events that are registered in the back-end ERP system will automatically, create calendars and Google groups, obviously when configured appropriately. And then you've got the multiple group support where you may have different types of faculty on maybe a different domain of Google and students on a different domain of Google or other multiple group user scenarios that Luminis supports also. Okay, and then we have obviously a package calendar portlet that we'll show here in the product. Okay, and on the mail side, there are comparable, features and value on the mail side. Again, easy to use mail configuration portlet to set up that Google service of mail. There's single sign-on. There's account provisioning. Again, we have OAuth support for the mail facet. Multiple group support is also available within the mail environment and mail service as well. And then obviously an easy-to-use mail portlet for end users. Okay. And so the difference between the first bullet, the mail configuration portlet, and the last bullet of mail portlet, the first one is for administrators to actually configure the Google service that they want to enable through your portal. The mail portlet here is just obviously the actual end user portlet that students, faculty, staff would interact with when they're managing their mail environment. Okay. Okay, so I will exit out here and I'll just jump in. Looks like the desktop continues to be shared. So what we wanted to do is just simply jump into the product so that you can take a look at the, let me see, make sure I type that in right. Oops. Okay. So if we take a look at the portal, simple home landing page of this sample portal, you see down here you've got the actual mail portlet, and you've got the calendar portlet. Here, let me move this over here so we can get a better view of it. So these are tied into Google right now for this particular user. This user's an employee, and they've got their course information that they're teaching. They've got a running weblog and other tabs and pages underneath those tabs that render different content as they've configured it. In the calendar environment, you have kind of a calendar widget that's very simple to interact with. You can switch between dates, and the events on the bottom here will load appropriately. If there's no events, it will show no events. You can, select multiple days if you so desire. within the environment, and it would render all of the events appropriately for those respective days. Okay. The calendar color coding that was noted earlier is actually shown here within the filter list, and you've got different. Google obviously has the native color coding for each respective calendar that's built out. We've carried that over into the context of the portlet as well. So if you look down on the events, you see the color coding matches up with the respective calendar. Okay. You can always jump out to the Google client, and so you saw a new browser window launch. Let me just jump back into the actual portlet again. All I did was click calendar. You can also click any event, etc., and that will lead you out to your Google client. Okay, and so here you can simply add new events. We'll add the Google Apps demo webinar, and those are automatically sent and provisioned back into the Luminis system as well, so they render through the user's appropriate portlet. Okay. Now on the mail side, very comparable functionality where you have email headers and a teaser of the body. You've got floating divs when you rest your mouse over the mail messages that will give you more of the body of the message. You can go out to the actual email, the Google Mail client, and compose messages. You can view contacts, get mail, etc. Throughout the inbox. So it's a pretty simple, quick snapshot mail and calendar portlet for end users that are enabled today. And we will continue to make enhancements to these as well as feedback is given from the market regarding additional elements that might be added. More usability around the portlets will certainly always occur. But the package portlets are available now. And let me see, I can just change real quick. If one of the other items that we wanted to make sure we noted was that the general configuration and framework that has been implemented into Luminis Platform 5 in support of Google Mail and Calendar is Google Mail and Google Calendar are just two services. We intend to support much more. So Google Docs and Sites and the ability to integrate. We have collaboration applications through Luminis Platform 5. We have video portlets now, and file sharing portlets and photo portlets. And the intent of the framework that is now in place is to now be able to quickly support other Google services so that you can integrate with Google Docs and Google Sites, and integrate with Picasa and other types of Google services within the context of your portal environment as well. And so in the next couple of releases, you will see a few additional Google services being supported above and beyond Mail and Calendar, which are the ones that are supported today. Okay. So at this time, what I want to do is I want to sign out, and we're going to jump in as an administrator, and we're going to have Rob McKay walk through the integration configuration for the Google environment and how the actual initial setup is typically performed within the product.
Well, hello everyone. We took an object-based approach towards Google integration and started by defining service integration. You can see that we have a mail configuration and a calendar configuration portlet here. The one that we need to add that's not on the page at the moment is the services integration. Integration configuration. There we go. As Josh mentioned earlier, all the administrative UIs are built with Flex. So you can see that this particular integration configuration portlet supports the abstract definition of Google as a service. There's no definition of whether this is for mail or calendar or any other service provided within Google Apps. This is just specifically to support OAuth and SAML-based authentication between our domain and the subdomain defined on the Google application. So if we were to go in and look at, basically we're setting up the various values, right? We've got the OAuth secret key and basically login information that takes us directly to the Google account. Oh, I've got the wrong user for this login. And we'll have to come back to that. basically, the link here at the bottom takes you to the administrator console for your Google account, where the OAuth secret key and other certificate values are managed. On top of this, once the configuration values are added, we have a validate process that goes out and calls one of the services inside of Google to validate that the OAuth key and the domain settings are correct and that we can properly authenticate into the services that are going to be used. That validation process was specifically defined to provide for a higher level of confidence around this particular step. So once we've configured the service itself and we've validated the contents, we know that we're able to connect to Google and authenticate properly. Then we can go in and look at other configuration values. So this particular calendar configuration portlet provides us with the ability to define where the calendar is hosted at Google. So you can see on the application URL here we have google.com/calendar hosted, and then our subdomain that would, in an institution's perspective, would be a .edu subdomain. And we use this to target, the launching of the calendar client, so that we get the proper reference when we launch to that. We also built in a validation mechanism in this portlet so that we could validate that calendar was properly configured. Now, as Josh had mentioned earlier, we were able to target Google specifically at say, the student group. So this is a dynamic group that defines all students within the system, based on their person properties that are available from the directory server. And by defining the student group, we can say associate all students with the Google Calendar service. So we could also create a secondary service that says Exchange and associate all employees or faculty to the Exchange service. And these two calendar configuration services would run in parallel and be accessible based upon your particular role in the institution. So we have a very similar functionality in the mail configuration. Let me jump in here real quick. That allows us to define that the domain at Google where mail is accessible, and basically be the same functionality to be able to say that a given role within the community or within the institution as a student or faculty is targeted at a specific mail service. You can see there's also a validate function here that basically does the same validation process that we saw in the original service. It goes out and retrieves a little bit of email and makes sure that everything is configured properly. So we expect to see the future extensions to Google Apps to be not only a mail configuration and calendar configuration, but also a YouTube configuration and Picasa and various other Google Docs type functionality that we would configure to support that. Thank you very much. Josh?
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. So I guess in summary, we just briefly talked through the removal of the packaged commercial mail and calendaring servers that have always been a part of the product in favor of more choice and flexibility around mail and calendar solutions for the market. And we walked through here just a little bit about that uncovers some of the steps that we have taken to try to ease the initial configuration with an environment such as Google Apps. We will continue to enhance and grow this type of an offering on a number of fronts, as we noted, but hopefully that gives us a good understanding of kind of what the existing version of Luminis Platform now provides with respect to mail and calendar, and how we have engaged and nicely pulled in Google and the overall Google Apps offering, which is indeed prominent within higher education and certainly within our market. So, Jason, that's the end of this piece. I guess we can take questions now.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. That was great. A number of questions came in first while Greg was talking, so I think I'll send some of those out first. A few, just minor technical questions. Someone was asking, when Greg, when you're speaking about your Active Directory script, how often do you run that script that syncs things up?
We run it at least twice a day, and then also we run it on demand whenever the file we get from Banner, whenever that changes, that kind of kicks everything off. So if there's a special circumstance where our Banner team knows that we need to get these people in, something just came in, they'll kick off a new file, and then from there everything just gets kicked off. But everything happens twice a day, no matter what.
Okay, great. And another one was, do you use Google's included spam filtering and virus protection for student email, or are you using an external service as well?
We're doing both. Everything comes through our Barracuda server, and then also we use the Google stuff as well. So.
Great. And on a more kind of general note, did Truman consider using Sungard to deploy, or did you do this all in-house? Or
we did this all in-house. Being a state institution, money's always a little tight, so we were tasked with doing our best on our own. So I think we did pretty well.
Great. And then some kind of more general, another general question is, what has the faculty staff reception been? And then also maybe you could explain why you didn't migrate faculty and staff at first.
The faculty and staff perception is pretty good. I think they're just now starting to realize what's out there. We've been doing some education with faculty and staff on what they can do with docs and calendar and everything, working with their students. So I think they're just now starting to realize what's there. We're still in discussion about moving faculty and staff. We had no reason to have to move them off of Exchange at the time, and people were kind of set in their ways on Exchange. Since then, Google's come up with some tools for Exchange migrations and integration with Outlook better too. So it's still something we're considering.
Great. And someone else had said when you were showing off your email channel, is that a portlet, and can they get a copy of it?
I don't know. We can email me, and we can see. We'll have to see what I can release and can't release. So.
Okay, great. Well, that's something maybe we can. I will be sending out a follow-up email to this webinar that will include links to the recorded webinar, and maybe we can answer any unanswered questions then as well.
Sounds good.
Josh, some questions for you. Someone was asked, will students on Luminis be able to sync their class schedule to the Google Calendar? It seemed like that was actually what you were demoing.
Actually, that was one of the things that this is Rob McKay. I didn't talk about very much. We are fully integrated with the backend ERP through IMS events. When we receive those for a course and course membership, we provision a Google group for the course, and we provision a calendar for that Google group, and then course events come across and are applied to that calendar, as well as memberships in the course become user memberships in the Google group. So the unified calendar from Google presents all course events as well as all personal events without any other configuration necessary.
Great. And then one question actually came through, and I think Stephen in Mountain View, this may be easiest for you to answer. Does Google Apps provide unlimited hosting per instance or per institution, or is it based on a user quota limit?
You can have as many accounts as you need for your institution. There's no quota limit on the number of accounts.
Great. And then for Josh or Rob, when will Luminis 5 be available for the masses?
Okay, Luminis 5 is already released. It was released in end of September. The release cycle will actually include, we're trying to hit quarterly releases. We have another one coming out beginning of January that has just some minor improvements in it. But the Luminis Platform 5 environment is generally available to all clients today.
Great. And this may be a question for Stephen as well as maybe the Sungard folks. Someone wrote that they use Shibboleth authentication with Google Mail at their university, and is there support available for a configuration?
So Shibboleth is one way of doing single sign-on, and we do support, if you go to a code.google.com page, type in SSO for single sign-on, you can get more information about the different codes that are available with Shibboleth.
Great.
And then, Jason, from a Luminis Platform perspective.
Yeah, we can support Shibboleth as our single sign-on solution for Platform 5. I believe there's also, isn't there a services implementation for 4?
Correct.
And so yes, we can support it.
I see. And Greg, one for you. I mean, going back to kind of the provisioning and faculty and staff, do you deprovision staff Google accounts when they leave, or do you just switch the routing via an alias? And then also, perhaps related, can you talk a bit about the process of flagging a user as alumni? And then Stephen, I think there were some questions about how does Google Apps for Education work with alumni in terms of do we begin showing ads and so on?
Okay. The staff accounts, a lot of them, if they were former students, we just switch them back over to a student account. Otherwise, that's one of those cases where we get notified and we go delete it manually. We have the sync set to not delete accounts so that we have an idea of what's going on. And that doesn't happen too often, not like, student turnover. Staff turnover is a lot less. When we move students to alumni, we actually have a script that checks the last time they were in the enrolled file, and if they haven't been in the enrolled file for a certain period of time, we just move them to a different group in AD, in Active Directory, and then that change gets picked up with the next sync on Google, so they get moved to the alumni group on Google Apps. And then I'll pass to Stephen for the other part of it there.
In terms of advertisements, if the alumni are on the same domain, advertisements with Google Apps are domain-level control. So if they're on the same domain as students or faculty, we don't ask that any ads are turned on. If you have them in a separate alumni-only, like alumni.school.edu domain, it just has alumni accounts. Since it is a free service, we ask that you enable ads, but it's, if they're in the same student-faculty domain, then there are no ads enabled.
Great. Some other questions about Luminis 5. So along with the Google Apps support, folks are asking, is an Exchange integration available, and will a Live at EDU integration be part of Luminis 5?
The Live at EDU is the next intended vendor target, and so that is coming through 2011, through the beginning of 2011. Exchange is a little bit lower, is behind that in priority, but Live at EDU and Exchange are both male targets that we will provide comparable support for.
Great. And there's also questions about migration. Can you discuss sort of what migration tools might exist for going from 4 to 5?
Well, there are indeed migration tools for the system from 4 to 5, which includes obviously content and user information, configuration information, permissions, et cetera, as we've had in the past. We have a greatly enhanced set of migration processes from 4 to 5 that we hope improves that process dramatically. And we noted earlier that existing Google accounts can be linked to Luminis Platform users through a flag and a process that we have built into the product. But there's no migration from Sun, for example, into Google or between the mail and calendar servers. Those are decoupled now and kind of not included in the migration process. We may do something down the road with respect to that, but that's not available in the system today. And kind of as part of the overall, kind of direction here, those commercial products are now decoupled and are no longer handled through the migration package migration we provide with the product.
Great. Another question, and I apologize that I don't have the context. I believe it was when you were demoing, but someone asks, are the account fields, are those predefined, or can institutions define custom fields per account?
Within the Google account screen?
I have to apologize. That's from within the Google account screen. So that.
Well, we have the services and the mail and calendar administration tools are custom developed specifically against the requirements of the Google account and Google administration. And as we add other services along the way, then we build those out specifically to those services. So customization in those areas is not something we've addressed yet, but if someone would like to contact us and give us more detail on what they're looking for, it'd be something interesting to us.
Great. Another Luminis 5 questions, or two of them. First of all, what email client is used in the group course tool email? And then another question is regarding the migration tools, when will those be available?
Okay, I can answer. The migration tools will be available. We're testing those as we speak, and in the next couple of months we'll release the first iteration of the migration tools for 4 to 5 migration to the client base.
As far as the mail and calendar clients, those are specific to whatever the integrated service is. So as an example, since we're integrated with Google and that's what we're talking about, we're completely using the Google Mail and Calendar clients. If we're talking about Exchange integration, then we would be able to connect in with Outlook or Web Outlook. So we're looking at the email and calendar vendors as the best providers of full-blown email and calendar clients.
Great, thanks. Another question: is LMG? And unfortunately, I'm not. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but is LMG LMB event processing updated in Luminis 5?
Right. This refers to the Learning Management Gateway, the Learning Management Broker that transports events between the back-end ERP system and Luminis. And that's the exact mechanism that we use to provision data out to Google. And yes, there are updates to it. We're supporting LIS 2.0 in the future. That's a future release for LP5. We're currently supporting the legacy mechanism. But that's the exact event mechanism we use to provision out to Google.
Great. And then also you had mentioned at one point that you were looking forward to adding additional integrations like Google Docs into Luminis. Do you have any time frame for that integration that you could share?
Well, that's the time frames are something that's kind of difficult to nail down, right? It depends on the specific application in the content area.
Right. So the framework is there. So we think the majority of the work has been done in the underlying framework, and so service by service, probably through 2011, we hope to introduce 1 or 2, but no commitments on the timing on that right now. But it is indeed on the list and a priority for us to incrementally increase the number of Google services that are supported with the Luminis product.
Great. And do you have any? Can you talk about support for multiple email systems or any plans to do so? For instance, when you have a situation where the university might have students using Google Apps but still have faculty and staff on Exchange.
Right. So those once Exchange is supported, the integration configuration model and administrative apps that we demoed will indeed be used to support that scenario. Right now within Google, as that's the only supported mail and calendar offering, at least in a packaged fashion with the Luminis system today. You can certainly always integrate external mail and calendar, today as you see fit. But with respect to what you saw in a packaged nature or a baseline nature, once Exchange or other environments are supported, you can indeed then, from a group perspective, support Exchange for faculty, Google for students, or it may be Zimbra for alumni, and Google for students, and Exchange for faculty. That underlying support is indeed there in Luminis. And once we formally baseline support for those respective vendors, you'll be able to easily configure those within the applications we just saw.
Great. Well, I see we're coming up towards the end of time, so I wanted to just make one point, which is we have been recording this webinar, and I'll be sending an email out to folks soon afterwards, hopefully early next week, that links to the recording of the webinar and any other documentation that might be relevant. I wanted to finish with one final question for Greg. It's more general, but if you had, if you could change kind of one thing about your implementation, what would that be?
That's a good question. I think there's a few little areas where it's not integrated as well as I'd like, especially in the single sign-on and log out and that kind of stuff. That channel, that portlet I showed, I couldn't get all the links to work exactly the way I wanted, so I think a lot of them actually just pull up the main email window, even though they show that they'll go to Compose and whatever. I think I got it working in Firefox, but not in IE, and finally just gave up and got it so it sort of worked on all browsers. So if I could get some of those little details all fixed, I think that would be it. So it really works seamlessly across both systems. The two systems work great on their own, and they work fairly well together, but it'd be nice to just take it to that next level. So.
Well, great. Thanks so much. I did want to remind folks, if you have any, there was a couple questions that we couldn't get to. If you have any questions that I can help answer, please send them along to Cook, C-O-O-K, at google.com. And I'd also love to hear any feedback you folks have in terms of, how could we hope to do these webinars more often, so anything we could be doing better going forward, or any topics you'd like the Google team to address in 2011. So look forward to hearing from you, and again, thank you everyone for participating, and thanks very much to both the folks at Truman State and from Sungard.